Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. I am really excited about today's video. I am going to take you along as I paint some koi fish. I absolutely love koi fish. I want a koi fish pond one day. I just think their vibrant colors are so cool. Animals that have really bright and beautiful colors always catch my interest. They just look so unique. So I thought it would be fun to try and paint some. You can use any size canvas for this. I'm using another 11 by 14 inch canvas that I got from Michael's, of course. That's where I get all of my art supplies. And this video is a bit longer than my others, but that's because I really wanted to take you step by step through the process of how I painted these koi fish. And as you can see, I start off with a base coat for my canvas. Like I said in my last video, I really like to start off with an undertone color instead of just a plain white canvas, and I like to sketch with paint. What this means is I am literally just sketching with paint by hand straight onto canvas. I don't like to start with pencil straight onto canvas. I just think it feels like I'm trying to color in between the lines and I don't feel as free with my painting. And that's something that I really love to be. Painting for me is an outlet. I love to create, and I don't like to feel confined to one way of doing something when I paint. There are no rules. I love to experiment, which is funny because when I first started painting, it was almost like I was scared to mess up and scared to use all of my paint. I followed tutorials to the T and never did anything different than what they said. Whenever I got new paints, I just wouldn't want to use them, so I didn't paint much for a while. It wasn't until a few years ago that I really started painting and experimenting with color and different techniques. But again, this is just me. If you guys find it easier to sketch with a pencil or whatever medium you use, then that is perfectly fine. I'm just sharing what works for me. And back to my koi fish. After I sketch them out, I'm going to start with the background color. I like to do the background first because it's easier to paint freely and without worrying you're going to mess up the top painting. So many times I finished all the detail on a piece, and the minute I start the background painting, I'm either not happy with the color or it gets somewhere where it's not supposed to be. So for the sake of saving time and your sanity as well as mine, we'll start with the background first. I'm using several different colors, like yellows, greens, and blues, but it wasn't really having the effect I wanted, so I finished painting that first coat with just the blues and the greens, and then I went in with a second coat with dark blue, that deep red, and some light blue. And that's one thing that I love about painting, especially with acrylic paints. If you mess up or if there's a color that you don't like using, just wait 2 minutes for it to dry, not even that long, and you just paint right over it. And that is the beauty of acrylic painting. So yeah, I'm using my Artist Loft acrylic paints. I'm gonna stick with this brand until I finish all of my tubes, which is actually gonna be pretty soon because I've been using them very often, I think, with all of my paintings. Recently, since I got them over the summer, they've lasted a really long time because I paint pretty much every day to every other day. So I'm gonna try a new brand. I'm not sure what yet. I might do a poll on Instagram or Twitter to see what you guys want to see. What other brands would you like to see me test out? So anyways, I'm gonna be using deep red, and I know that may seem weird for water, but just look at the color. I think using red and blue really creates this deep, beautiful color, and I really prefer experimenting with other colors instead of black and white to darken or lighten a color. Like when you're trying to do shadows and highlights. I just think that's very plain and it can be kind of boring. So for me at least, I just think you can create such beautiful colors when you let yourself experiment, especially with colors that seem absurd together. It's just really funny to me because when I first started painting, I was not experimental at all. And you think of water, and immediately you're like, oh, it's blue. But it's not just blue. There are so many beautiful undertones and highlights and shadows of different colors. And that's why I think allowing yourself to experiment with color will really bring your paintings to the next level. If you take a look at my brush strokes, I'm not fully blending them out and I'm painting them in several different directions. This is because I'm really trying to create movement because I'm painting water, and what happens when anything moves in water? It creates a sort of ripple effect. But I didn't want to paint ripples. I just wanted it to seem like a moment in time. The koi fish are suspended in the water. They're not swimming, but they're in the middle of some movement. So I really wanted the water to move in the same direction as their bodies, just as water would. And I think that really helps create a cool effect by not blending out the paint completely and letting it sit on top of wet paint. And by this I mean painting directly on top of wet paint, not letting it dry. I think the way the colors blend and peek through really just create a beautiful effect. So I'm just gonna finish painting the water and I'll see you guys in a minute. Look at that background. Oh, I love that I used the deep red and the blue to really create those shadows. I think it just takes the water to another level, honestly. And now that that's done, which honestly turned out way better than I expected, I'm really pleased with it. I'm gonna take some flesh colored paint, some white, and I'm gonna paint the body of both of the koi fish. I'm also going to use burnt umber and mix that with white and the flesh tones both separately so I can create the shadows on the koi fish. Sometimes the brush doesn't blend the paint the way I want, so I'll just use my finger to do the blending. I just like how it comes out. It blends it in a smoother way with no harsh lines. For the koi fish, I wanted it to look almost two-dimensional. I really wanted to give some depth to the overall body of the fish and using darker tones for my shadows, I feel like I really achieved this. And now I'm just going to continue using the flesh color and white paint to add layers. That's mainly the focus right now on the koi fish's body, is just layering, layering, layering. I really want to create lots of different undertones for the fish, as there are many highlights and shadows. So I'm just gonna continue adding layers to both of the koi fish and their fins, and I'll come back in a second when I'm ready to add their colorful spots. For the spots of color, koi fish come in so many different colors. There are full yellow ones, black, all orange, even mixed colors, which I find so cool. But for this painting, I wanted to stick with a more traditional koi fish, which is the orange and white spotted koi, obviously. Now, I'm using 3 colors, orange, vermilion, and deep red. And I'm going to layer those on, starting with the lightest color, orange, just so I can map out where their spots of color are, and then I'm going to build the layers of color on top. The most amount of time spent on this piece is honestly just layering. That really helps give the piece just so much depth. I really think that layers and shadows and highlights are so important to give a piece just that little bit of extra that it needs, so that it won't just look like a flat piece, you know? So while I'm doing that, I'm gonna let you guys enjoy some music, and I'll see you guys in a second. So I finished layering on my first koi fish, and you can see the difference that it makes to use that deep red color as the darker shade of vermilion and orange. And I really love using color, and that's why I really wanted to paint these koi fish. They have such a bright, natural, pigmented color that just really inspired me. And if there's one thing to know about me, it's that I love Japanese culture. And I've had a fascination with Japan for years now, since I was like 15 or 16. But I'd really love to visit one day, hopefully soon, and that's why I was so excited to paint this piece. The koi fish fins were a bit tricky, and I had to layer several different colors of paint until I was satisfied with how it looked. I used some white, burnt umber, and some gray to try and replicate their almost transparent fins. And with the second koi fish, I was a lot more free with my movement. As you can see, I had already done the first koi fish and I knew how it would turn out, and that made it a lot easier for me to just paint freely without worrying I was going to mess it up somehow. Honestly, that's another thing that I struggled with for a while, and sometimes I still do. I'll start a piece and I'll get to a point where I'm really happy with the way it looks, but I won't want to continue because I'm afraid of ruining the progress I've already made. And that just seems crazy. I mean, you start a piece, you get so excited. The whole point is to see what you can do, you know? And one day I was working on a portrait in my room and I really wanted to finish it, but again, I didn't want to mess it up. So days went by of me just staring at it, and I really wanted to paint and I didn't have any other canvases. So I said, you know what? Screw it. If I mess up, I can just start over. I know what I'm capable of because I got to this point once already. And if I don't try, I won't know if I can actually finish this. So I took the risk and it came out better than I ever could have expected. I think that's how it goes with a lot of my paintings. I kind of just take a risk, I chance it, I get an idea, and then I just see how it turns out. And most of the time I'm pretty happy with it. And if not, I'll just paint over it. Ever since then, I've just began telling myself to just do it. My urge to paint has grown into a constant need to create, and I found myself developing a new mindset, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I've been there. I'm still getting to a place where I can look at my work and not see all the mistakes, but instead see the progress that I've made. And I think with art, it's really important to focus on the progress and the positive, because that's what motivates you to continue. If you're constantly getting on yourself for how something doesn't look as perfect as you wanted it to be, you're kind of killing that passion. You're taking the fun out of painting and art. So you really should try not to judge yourself so harshly. We're all just experimenting, we're all artists, and it's just important to practice and to remind yourself that you did good. Find something, one thing of a piece that you're working on that you really love and tell yourself, good job, you know. Especially with social media being as big as it is so easy to find yourself comparing your art to others. I know I did in the beginning, and that's something that you should really avoid doing, because some of these artists have worked years on their technique and developing their skill. Comparing your work to someone who has been painting or drawing longer is kind of setting yourself up for disappointment, because you can't expect to be at the same level of skill as someone who has been practicing and at it for a longer period of time. It's important to remind yourself that they all started in the beginning too. They worked and practiced, and so can you. If you want to become a better artist, just like starting anything in this world, any hobby, you have to practice. And developing your skill is a lot of fun because there's so many styles out there. There's so much experimentation involved, and when you really begin to see your progress, that is such an amazing feeling. Even now, I'm still learning and still developing my skill and style, and it makes me happy to look back on previous work and see how much I continue to improve. When I was younger, I couldn't draw. I started getting into drawing because my brother drew, and of course, the older brother, I wanted to be like him, so I would copy what he did. And eventually it turned into a real passion of mine, and I kept practicing and practicing, and I've kept pictures and drawings that I've done from years ago, and it really makes me happy to see just how far I've come in developing my skill, because before, honestly, I could not draw a tree. I was just a terrible but I improved. I practiced and practiced, and honestly, I'm glad that I never gave up, because art is everything to me. Painting is such a passion of mine. It's who I am. And I believe with art, there's always something new to learn, and that's what makes it such an interesting and fun career and hobby. But back to my koi fish painting up here. I got a little off track. I'm just putting the finishing touches, such as the eyes and the little, what are they called? Gills? The little fish mustache? I'm not exactly sure what they're called, but they're really cute. It really does look like a little mustache. But yeah, I'm just blending with my fingers again, because I really like the kind of texture that it creates. I think it adds another element to their bodies, since I didn't want to do a very realistic piece with all of the details of their scales, and I don't like doing very tiny details. I'm not into hyper realistic paintings. Don't get me wrong, I think they're beautiful. For me, I just prefer to do a different stylized versions of animals and flowers and different things that I paint. I'm inspired by so many things. Animals, nature, people. I like to paint and draw many different subjects. These koi fish were definitely on my to paint list, and I think it's a simple painting that can be recreated in so many different ways. If you do follow along this painting tutorial, I would love to see your recreations. Please feel free to tag me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm already thinking about my next video and what I should paint. Please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. I'm open to all suggestions. But there you have it, some cute koi fish. This painting is definitely going on my wall. I absolutely love the colors and the way it turned out. It honestly turned out better than I expected. I've said that before, but I am just a tad shocked, just as I usually am with most of my paintings. Sometimes I'm sitting there painting, I'm like, I really don't know how this is gonna turn out, and thankfully, for the most part, I can find the things that I love in a piece rather than the things that are wrong with it. I think that really helps me stay motivated in painting and just being positive about it. I love to have fun with painting. That's what it's all about for me. Thank you guys so much for watching and following along. This was such a fun video to make. I hope you enjoyed watching it just as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you guys liked it, please click that thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you next time.